Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be letting you guys know that I'll be participating in 2 readathons for the month of July. The first one is Tome Topple. That will be taking place from June 29th to July 12th, so I'll be starting with that TBR. And the next one is actually a really cool readathon. It's the Owls readathon that actually happened back in April, but things were just so busy for me that there was no way that I was able to participate then. But there is the Newts readathon happening in August, and in order to participate in that, you had to have had done the Owls readathon. And thankfully there are quite a few people participating in July in preparation for August, because there was a lot of people who couldn't do April. So I'm not alone, which is awesome. But since that is a month-long readathon, this is basically my TBR for the month of July. And I'll do that TBR after I do the Tome Topple. So the first readathon I'm participating, like I said, is Tome Topple. Tome Topple was created by Sam over in Thoughts on Tomes, and the idea of this readathon is just to inspire you and to encourage you to read really big books. A lot of people find books over 500 pages really intimidating, and this is just so you could read these books with other people cheering you on. So there are challenges, but the books that you had to choose, they had to be at least 500 pages. The first challenge, read more than one tome, which I've already got set up. Second challenge, read a graphic novel that's over 500 pages. I'm cheating a little bit for this one. For this one, I'm reading My Favorite Thing is Monsters by Emil Ferris. This is actually a graphic novel that is set in 1960s Chicago, I want to say. Yeah, late 1960s Chicago. This is kind of like set up almost like a diary, which is really cool. And I've been hearing just really awesome things about this. And I personally am allowing this, that even though it's not quite 500 pages, it's 400 something. It's still an intimidating size, which is why I'm counting it. The other 3 challenges is to read a tome that is part of a series, buddy read a tome, and read an adult novel. Let's read an adult novel. I might have to pick another book then. I was counting this towards like it being an adult book because this is an adult graphic novel. So at this moment, I'm actually counting this towards the 5th challenge. And the other 2, buddy read a tome and read a book that's part of a series, is for this other book that I have. It's The Diviners by Libba Bray. As you can see, it's the audiobook version, and I'm going to be listening to it as an audiobook. There are 15 CDs in this thing, which is really long for an audiobook. I'm going to be buddy reading this with a girl named Allie that I met through the Goodreads group. A bunch of people were looking for buddies for this challenge, and quite a few people will be reading this. I'm told this is very much like The Great Gatsby in like a fantasy setting, because this takes place in 1920s New York, which sounds really cool. This has been on my TBR for a while. This is also a first book in a series, so it counts towards the other challenge. Now, these 2 books are actually going to be incorporated into my Owl Readathon TBR, because honestly, these are massive books, and if I'm going to be reading them, I need to somehow incorporate them into the other challenges for the Owl Readathon, because otherwise I don't know how I'm going to fill those challenges. Now, the Owl Readathon, if you're not familiar with the Owls are basically the 5th grade. It's the 5th year test that Harry takes. That's called the Ordinary Wizarding Levels. 5th year, they have to take this test, and that's in preparation for the classes they're going to be taking 6th and 7th year. And those classes, 6th and 7th year, will actually help towards their careers as wizarding adults. And in order to actually take the Newt tests, you had to have passed the Owl version of that test. So each subject is listed, and for each subject there is a challenge. First one is Ancient Runes, a book with a symbol on the cover, and for that one I did choose The Diviners. There's a big eye on the cover, and that seems really symbolic to me. This challenge was a little hard to find a book for, because I didn't know what she really meant by symbol. Oh, I didn't say who created this readathon. I can see her face, but I'm totally spacing on her name. I'm going to list her name just on the screen here. I can't believe I'm forgetting her name. Well, I'm also going to be leaving a link to her channel and the link to Sam's channel as well down below. The second subject is arithmancy. arithmancy. Read a book with a number on the cover or in the title. And this I have two choices. The goal is to read this book, Forest of a Thousand Lanterns by Julie C. Dow. I unboxed this a while ago. I understand this is a Snow White retelling through the Evil Queen's perspective. Because there are so many books on this TBR, I'm not going to get to this book right away. And if I want to actually succeed in this challenge, I might have to read this book, which is One Piece by Akira Oda. This is a manga. This is the first book in the series. This is actually about a boy named Luffy who always wanted to be the king of the pirates, but unfortunately he eats a piece of fruit that basically turns his body into rubber. Like, he has the ability to stretch, and it actually takes away his ability to swim. That actually puts a kink in his plans of being king of the pirates, but that doesn't stop him from actually trying. And so that's the basic story of this. I remember reading this, I want to say in 8th or 9th grade, really digging the story, and I've been meaning to get into manga, and it seems like the easiest way for me to do that is to reread the books that I actually liked as a kid. So my goal for this challenge is to read this book, but if not, I'm going to be reading this one. The next subject is astronomy. Read a science fiction novel. I didn't say this in the beginning, but the main reason I'm participating in this readathon and the one in August is because I want to start reading all the books I actually own. I keep borrowing from my library, which is awesome. I'm supporting my library, but I've said in several videos that I plan on moving out to Los Angeles, which means I need to start reading the books I currently own, because if I don't love them, I want to get rid of them so it's less things for me to move. So a lot of the books that you're going to see here are either ARCs or books that I've unboxed before, and I've had them for a while. Those other two books were library books, because I can't stop myself from bringing books home. But my choice for this subject is The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. This is pretty much a retelling of the OG science fiction book. This is based on Frankenstein. But as you can see, our protagonist is actually a woman, not a man. And I think it's really cool that they pretty much put in the little corner here that this year will be the 200th anniversary of the publication of Frankenstein. I just think that's a really cool tidbit, and this is something I grabbed from this year's BEA and BookCon. The next subject, Care of Magical Creatures. Read a book that includes magical creatures or features a magical creature on the cover. And for this one, this is something I actually unboxed, so definitely I know for a fact it's one of my guilty pleasure unboxings. I got a small subscription for a little while, and one of the books that I got from that box subscription is Sink by Emmy Rines. This is YA, and this is actually about mermaids. It says here like a mermaid royalty novel, so this makes me think that this is possibly part of a series. Our main protagonist is Princess Pauline. She knows that to speak against the queen is treason, but she finds out what happens to the human men that get betrothed to the mermaid women, and she can no longer stay silent. So this seems to be one of those like dystopian political sort of books in this mermaid world. The next subject is Charms. Read a fantasy book, and this is actually something I grabbed at last year's BEA and BookCon, not this past year's. This is Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. This book is actually already out in publication, and this is just the ARC that I have. It's funny, I actually grabbed this a couple times from my library, forgetting that I owned the ARC, and every time I brought it back to the library because I never had time to read it. This story is about a girl named Isabel who's a portrait artist, and she's a portrait artist in this like fairy world. Her skills are very sought after, and one day she actually paints the prince. But she makes a mistake. She actually paints like this look of sorrow into his eyes, and that shows weakness in him, and that can't be tolerated. And so she is actually whisked away to like go to trial for this crime, which has me thinking like, well, that's not fair. She just painted the truth. But this trial gets upended. There's something wrong in the fairy world, and they keep getting attacked from all sides. So this is also like a political based story in this fantasy world. The next subject, Defense Against the Dark Arts. Read a book about or featuring secret societies or clubs. And for this one, I actually had a tough time finding a book. I had a couple choices, but they were a bit of a stretch. And in the end, I chose Fox by Nadine Brandes. This is the ARC. And this is basically a fantasy retelling of the Gunpowder Plot. And if this is a bit of history that you're not aware of, Guy Fawkes and a bunch of other people attempted to blow up Parliament in November 5th, if I'm remembering the little poem right, remember the 5th of November. I don't know what year that was, actually. 17th century London. That plan actually gets upended, and Guy Fawkes is eventually executed. And now it's actually a bonfire holiday. This actually is about Guy Fawkes' son, not Guy Fawkes. The son actually has this plague, like stone plague, that's in his eye, and Guy Fawkes tells his son, hey, if you take part of this plan for me, like if you help me basically attack the king, this will help end the plague, get rid of the plague. And the son is like all for it since he has this plague. But he has to make a choice. He loves the daughter of the king, and he knows if he takes part of this plan, he loses the daughter. But if he doesn't take part of this plan, he knows that he may lose his father. So this is actually a choice that he has to make, his father or the love of his life. With this plague, there's two sides. There's the keepers and the igniters, and both sides think the other one caused the plague, which is why the Guy Fawkes in the story thinks, hey, if I blow up the bad guy, or what he thinks is the bad guy, like the other side, then it'll get rid of the plague. And that's the book's reasoning why Guy Fawkes wanted to blow up Parliament. As you can tell from what I said about the story, there really isn't like a secret society in this story. There is like this giant secret plot, which is why I chose this one for this subject. The next subject, divination. Read a book featuring prophecies. And this is something I'm actually currently reading. It's a library book I had borrowed actually over a month ago. I'm on like the second renewal. So I now only have X amount of time to finish this book, so I have to read this book in the month of July. It's Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. This is about a girl named Nora who is sold into slavery by her parents. Her parents are in poverty and they need the money. She gets sent to this very rich family who the son is very cruel. As the son is attacking another slave, she attacks the son and saves the girl. But she almost kills him, which then sends her to the gallows. But she's saved from the gallows by this nun who rescues her and puts her in this convent. And now she's in training to become a Red Sister. This takes place in a world where there is a prophecy. The emperor and everyone else believes that there is somebody coming who actually has all these abilities. I'm not entirely sure what the prophecy is meant to do, but this takes place in a world where everyone has some blood of the 4 original tribes. There's Garand, there's Munska, and there's these 2 other ones. And this chosen person is supposed to have blood from all 4 tribes. It's super rare to have 1 tribe in your bloodline, let alone 2. So this person is very sought after. Right now, the community thinks it's this girl named Arabella, but my gut is telling me it's going to be revealed that it's Nora. If it's going to follow most science fiction and fantasy storylines, it's going to be the main character. The next subject is herbology. Read a book with a nature-related word in the title. And this is something I'm actually also currently reading. I'm physically reading Red Sister, but I'm listening to the audiobook Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ning. Our main character is Pearl Warren, and she is, I want to say, in middle school, possibly she's 15, so freshman year in high school, at least. And there are other POVs in the story. There's Mia, her mother. They're nomads. Mia is a photographer, and she actually moves to a place, use that place for inspiration for her project, but as soon as she finishes the project, her and Pearl move on to a new town. So that's kind of their life. They're constantly moving around to different towns, and now they're in Shaker Heights. So they're in Shaker Heights, which is supposed to be this really, what's the word I'm looking for? Like this suburban utopia. If you're going to move to suburbia, you want to move to this place. And they're in this town now, and things are becoming not so perfect, and there's like this bit of drama currently happening in the book. And this bit of drama is upending this lovely atmosphere of this suburban town. And the next subject that I have, History of Magic, read a historical fiction book. That book that I am going to use for this subject is something I already talked about. It's My Favorite Thing is Monsters. And the next subject, Muggle Studies, read a Muggle nonfiction book. And for that, I'm going to be reading A Girl's Guide to Joining the Resistance, a Feminist Handbook on Fighting for Good by Emma Gray. And with the political climate that's currently happening in the US, I wanted to read this. I've always stayed quiet about political stuff on social media, mostly because I don't know how to adequately talk about certain things. At least I'm not confident about it. And I'm always scared I'm going to be causing more harm to the cause rather than good. And with everything the president is currently doing and the Senate, and it's just, I can no longer stay silent. So this read is, I'm hoping this read will help me find more confidence in talking about it. So I only have 2 more subjects. Potions. Read a book about or with alchemy, and I'm totally cheating on this. I didn't have anything related to this subject, so I thought of the first thing I thought of. I grabbed it at the library, and it's Full Metal Alchemist, The Land of Sand. This is a manga, and this is the first book in that series. Again, I'm trying to get more into manga, and I remember enjoying this when I was a kid. This is something my brother also enjoyed, and I remember watching the anime growing up. I feel like this would be an easy pick for this subject. This is about 2 brothers who are alchemists. It takes place in a world if we didn't have the Industrial Revolution, so it kind of takes place in a world that still uses like steam-powered technology. But instead of making all these advances in technology, alchemy became super advanced. Oh, it's a novel, not the manga. Yeah, this is not what, I'm going to have to find something else for this challenge. And the last subject, transfiguration. Read a book that deals with transfiguration, shape-shifting, or similar theme, or a book with a cat on the cover. And this is something I recently showed in my Book Expo and BookCon haul. It's The Brilliant Death by Amy Rose Capetta. It seems that this is going to be a love story between a daughter that's torn between loyalty to her family and owning her power, and an orphan with a gift for shape-shifting. So because this character has the ability to shape-shift, I can read this for this subject. Now obviously I'm not actually going to read everything because it's impossible for me to. But there are certain subjects that I'm pretty sure I'm going to get to. Obviously Ancient Runes because of the Diviners, and History of Magic. My favorite thing is monsters. I'm reading those for Tome Topple, so I'm going to be getting to those. Also Red Sister, which is for divination, and Little Fires Everywhere, which is for History of Magic. So there's going to be at least 4 subjects that I'm going to get to. And there's a couple others that I'm pretty sure I'm going to get to, which is Arithmancy for One Piece, and Potions, if I can get the right Full Metal Alchemist book. Now these are the passing grades. The following grades are awarded for overall OWLs performance. Outstanding, sit and pass at least 5 OWLs, so I need to read at least 5 books in order to get an outstanding. Exceeds expectations, which is I have to sit and pass at least 3 OWLs, so for that one I have to read at least 3 books. Acceptable, sit and pass at least 2 OWLs, which is of course read 2 books. And the fail grades are poor, you only read 1 book. Dreadful, start but not finish any of the OWLs. And Troll, you didn't even show up. So obviously I'm not getting Troll, and I feel like I'm going to be getting at least 4. So I'm expected to get exceeds expectations on these OWLs. So this is everything I wanted to talk about for this video. As you can see, I have quite the stack of books. This is basically my July TBR. What about you guys? Are you guys going to be participating in either Tome Topple or the OWLs Readathon? Please let me know down in the comments below. Or if you're not doing either but will be participating in the Newts one, again, let me know down in the comments below. Have you read any of these? Definitely let me know your thoughts down below. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I guess it's ta-ta for now. Bye guys!